Guys, Bitcoin has had a decent pullback, and in today's video, I am going to show you why we're seeing this. In fact, I'm actually going to show you exactly who is selling Bitcoin at this very moment. Guys, we have a lot of things to talk about today. I'm also going to talk about what I see happening moving forward. I am going to talk about the trading strategies, obviously. I'm going to talk about everything you need to know if you're holding any crypto at all. So welcome back, everybody. My name is Chris. I'm bringing you cryptocurrency videos every day, teaching you how to make money in this market. If you're new to the channel, then make sure to subscribe and activate the bell right now. So let's get straight into it, guys. So what you can see is that once the ETFs actually started to trade, you have now seen a pullback of from the top. If we just take the top, so obviously we did have a pump here when the ETFs were approved and actually started trading, and then from that point we have now had a pullback of about 15% from the very peak to the very low. Now, this is something you typically see in even bull markets. This is typical action for Bitcoin. So the pullback itself of 15% is nothing out of the ordinary. But obviously, there was a lot of people expecting Bitcoin to pump to the sky once it actually started to trade. And what I've been saying from the very start, as you know, guys, do not overestimate the first price action for Bitcoin during the first few days when the ETFs are launched, because it's all about the long term. And if you watch my strategy video where I talked about what I thought was going to happen on the day of the ETF approval, I said I think we're going to see a pump and then we are going to see a pullback as you start to see people take profit. And that is actually what happened as well. Now, the targets for that pullback, I talked about $42,000 because this red line is a massive level of support and it's going to take a lot for Bitcoin to close below this level. Now, the second one, should we drop below this one, would have been $38,000. Now, since we are finding pretty decent support off of this red line already, I do not think that we are going to see $38,000. Now, am I 100% sure? Obviously not. This is Bitcoin. This is trading. You can never be 100% sure about anything. But I do think it's a maybe 15% chance that we are going to go down to $38,000. And it's 85% that we are going to stay above this red line, which is kind of a bold statement because if you look at where we are right now, we're only like 2% from actually dropping below this. So could I be wrong? Yes, obviously yes. But I do think that there's a decent chance, a very decent chance, that this red line is going to hold up the Bitcoin price. So we will see if that is going to be correct or not. But I'm giving it like 80, 85% that this level is going to hold, and about 15% that we are going to go below here. But the thing is also, what if we break through this level and we come down to this? So what percentage do I give that? Well, if I give, okay, let me say this. Us staying above this red line from now, I give it 50%. Us going down below this level, but still staying inside of the orange box, meaning not breaking down from the orange box, I give it 35% chance. And then 15% chance of us breaking through all of this and going down to this one right here. So does that math make sense? I hope so. 50 right here, 35 right here, and 15 right here. That adds up to 100% if I am not mistaken. So that is what I believe, guys, and that is why I think that the pullbacks you're seeing right now in time, do not, like I said, do not underestimate the effects long term. And over time, I do think we will look back on these ones as good buying opportunities. We will see in a few years, or like at least 6 months, if that is going to be the case or not. That is what I believe, and we will see. Now, for Ethereum, this is really, really interesting because Ethereum has actually not done too bad. After consolidating on the daily time frame inside of this for what seems like forever, you saw a big pump for Ethereum. Now we're seeing a pullback into the orange line here. This is actually at $2,500. So Ethereum is doing pretty well. Now, if you look at traditional markets are still resting on my orange line up here at 4,808. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 candles in a row here trying to be supported off of the orange line here. So that is looking decent, but if we break down from this, then you are going to see potentially some more pullbacks also for Bitcoin. I do think that at this point, yes, the traditional markets are again going to start to influence the Bitcoin price more and more. So that is something to be aware of. But if we just look at Bitcoin compared to traditional markets, you can see that at the all-time high for Bitcoin, we were up here, okay? So we are still underperforming compared to the ratio we saw when Bitcoin was at an all-time high. It is still underperforming by 34%. Now, if you have the thesis that you think that Bitcoin is going to outperform the traditional markets, then we have some ways off to go. Look at the pumps we have had in previous cycles, guys. So the first cycle here, or not even the first cycle, but in 2015, when Bitcoin went on a massive run, we outperformed by, 12,000% essentially, the traditional markets. And even since the COVID crash here, since the COVID crash from the bottom to the peak, we outperformed the traditional markets by 941%. So I think that we are going to start to outperform the traditional markets. It's just a matter of time. Now, let's talk about who is actually selling. So yesterday, the markets were very spooked because Grayscale deposited 4,000 Bitcoin to Coinbase. That was $140 million, and potentially to facilitate redemptions for their ETF. Now, if you do not know, guys, let me give you a brief history of Grayscale here, just very, very briefly. So if you look back throughout history, what institutions would do is that they could put Bitcoin into the Grayscale trust and they were issued shares. Now, in 2017 and in 2020 and 2021, there was a massive premium mostly in 2018, 2019 actually. There was a massive premium on GBTC, meaning institutions could essentially put their Bitcoin into Grayscale and they would immediately be able to sell those for 20% extra. Not immediately, it was actually after about 6 months. But since this premium was like 30%, 20%, a lot of institutions, including FTX, including many of the major names we already know about, like FTX, like BlockFi, BlockFi obviously already went bankrupt, but these institutions, they would put their Bitcoin into this with the aim of 6 months later just collecting this 30% premium. It was a genius trade, right? Well, what happened is that it just went overboard. There was so much Bitcoin pouring into this thing so that eventually it started to get into a loss because you cannot redeem this one for Bitcoin at that point. You could not take your Bitcoin back. The only thing you could do is sell your GBTC shares. So as more and more institutions started to flood into this with their Bitcoin, they started to buy Bitcoin, they put it into GBTC for the opportunity to 6 months later sell these shares, which used to be traded at a premium. But the more institutions that did this, eventually, because everyone were selling, the premium went into negative. So you start to see a discount, right? And that is at the peak here. We actually saw a discount of about 50%. That was in late 2022. And then when the ETF started to really catch traction, that it could actually be approved and that Grayscale could be converted into an ETF, now there was a trade to make on the other side to buy this at a discount, 50% discount. And then when the ETF gets approved, then you can sell these ones and collect those 50% in addition to whatever price appreciation Bitcoin has already had. So that is what you have been seeing, guys. You have been seeing the people that have been buying at a discount, they are now taking profit on those because now you're able to actually essentially redeem your Bitcoin, as this is an ETF, which you haven't been able to do for Grayscale in the past. You could only sell these shares, which push down the prices of the share compared to the actual Bitcoin price. But now we have that equilibrium. So really, if you look at the data right here, so I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what has happened here in a nutshell. But if you look at this, if you see the flows for Grayscale, you can see that it was a net outflow of $484 million from the Grayscale Trust, meaning the thing I just talked about, people who have bought down here now taking profit on that, it was about $500 million. Now, in terms of the other ETFs, you have actually inflows into Bitwise and these other instruments. However, here's the thing. We do not know this data to be 100% accurate yet. Yes, we do know that Grayscale, they have outflows because people are selling off their shares. And when they sell off their shares, they have to get money back. So Grayscale actually needs to sell those Bitcoin, and that is what's been happening. But on the other hand, when someone is buying an ETF, like BlackRock ETF, Bitcoin ETF or Bitwise or whatever, it is the same process. They need to take the money and they need to actually buy Bitcoin. So that is why we do not really know, because they do this usually at the end of the trading day, and we cannot really trust this data because usually it's delayed by 1 day. But the only thing we know for sure is that Grayscale are seeing outflows. So people are selling from Grayscale, but let's look at the inflows when we have that data more accurately from these other ETF providers as well. Now, what I believe is that the people that were gearing up to take profit here and utilize this strategy, I think that most of them have already sold here, guys. I think that most of them have already sold, and that is why I also believe that there's a good chance that you are going to see a bounce from this point. And not only that, guys, just the sheer fact that we have Bitcoin ETFs already approved, that the halving is coming up, that things are looking really bullish in general for the markets. They are trying to scare you out of your Bitcoin, in my opinion. Fear mongering, saying that we're going to go down to $25,000 again. I even heard people say $10,000. Guys, for me, this is absolutely crazy. And yeah, I do think that Bitcoin is in a healthy state. We had a 15% pullback. That's fine. This happens even in massive bull markets. People on Grayscale that have been waiting to take profit for multiple years, for like 5-6 years. Okay, congratulations, you were able to do that right now. But I do think that they are going to also end up regretting that they sold, because I do think that over time Bitcoin is going to go up. So that's just my sense. That I believe, and we will see if that's going to be the case or not. One other interesting thing regarding this is that, just like I said, one of the biggest institutions that were also utilizing this strategy that bought Bitcoin and put it into Grayscale with the aim to sell it and collect that premium, one of those were actually FTX. So Skybridge Capital says that FTX, the liquidators, have actually sold a lot of GBTC shares here. So that is one thing to keep track of. FTX are selling their Grayscale that they had been holding for multiple years already. So that is also something. So you have like peak fear right now. You have everyone selling at once, which is, to me, honestly, I like this volatility, and as long as you manage risk, as long as you have been prepared for it, then really, in my opinion, there's not that much to worry about. Now, in terms of the ETF for Ethereum, inside of BlackRock, we have some sources saying that they do not expect it to happen in 2024. So that is also something, and also Coinbase do not believe that, and Jane Street. So let's see if the ETF for Ethereum is going to happen this year or not. But that is also something that's interesting, that Ethereum is not really going down that much. In fact, Ethereum is up since the ETF was launched. So that is really cool to see. Now, in terms of my trading strategies, obviously this downturn for Bitcoin has meant that a lot of these bots have filled all of their positions. In fact, the fast bot and the cycle bot has filled all of their positions. And you have massive floating losses here in those positions. So that is obviously, of course, entirely like throughout history. In total, the bots are at massive profit still. But yes, this is something that we were prepared for. And what I said is, if you see a massive pullback here, so you need to be prepared for a massive pullback, and you need to be prepared for you to be stuck in massive positions on these bots if you do see a massive pullback. And that is something that has happened. So I am prepared to hold these ones right now. I do believe that the Bitcoin price is going to go up, so nothing has changed. I'm just continuing with the same strategy I had from the very beginning. The price action you're seeing right now does not change anything because I was prepared for it. So I added sufficient margin to make sure I was not liquidated, and I knew that if you saw a massive pullback, then there's going to be massive orders filled here, and it may take a while until we reach the price in which these positions actually take profit. That is something I am prepared for, and I will continue to keep you updated. Of course, if you're using these ones, make sure to manage your margin. It is very important to not get liquidated. As you can see here, even with all of these positions filled, if I go to the liquidation price, my liquidation price is at $24,000. So I've added so much margin so that these ones do not really have a realistic chance to get liquidated. And same on BitGet as well, guys. I have added sufficient margin to make sure that I am not liquidated on these positions. And I am comfortable in the fact that I believe in myself that Bitcoin is at some point going to trade much higher than even $48,000, which have been the top here, or for $49,000, I'm confident that we're gonna get above this point for my own trading, and then all of these positions are going to just make so much profit. We've been through this before on the channel. I've showed you multiple times, and we will see. As you know, I show you everything on my channel. We will see if once again this is going to work out the same way it has done every single time previously. Okay guys, that is what I got for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.